Oh no, what's going on? Why is it doing this? Oh, come on. Give me the song. Dude, the song always makes me smile.
It's even funnier when you. I like it better when you do it.
Oh, so you like it better when I do it myself?
Oh yeah, way better. First of
Well,
all,
I'll have to look into doing
I
that.
didn't even know it was a real song. I
Really?
thought you were just like doing it, and you'd always do the same one. I'm like, how does he know what that song he just made up that one time sounds like every time?
No, I did not make that song up myself.
Dude, have you been noticing any just weird things? Like, it's really weird. I mean, I'm having different people reaching out to me on Instagram now. Like, uh, I'm having a lot of more bears like call me, video call me, and I don't know, like connections, old friends calling me. I don't know if anyone else has been having like. I mean, you went to your trip, so it's kind of like that. Like there's something happening with connection. I think you know.
Interesting.
Like I was saying the other morning, I did a morning stream that I think that the Bears collectively are a prophetic entity in that the best the 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 best example of a prophet on earth right now that I see is Beartaria, the group of bears. Now individually, you know, putting that putting that title on an individual is a bit much, but as a group, it's almost like what we're doing, and Owen leads a lot of it, is sort of prophetic to what's happening. So, like over the last week, it seems like a week or two, it seems like Catholics have been trying to grapple Bertaria a lot, especially Owen with like Trinity garbage and all that. Like, so there might be something happening with the Catholic Church, and then there's the articles. I think Owen just posted, Big Bear just posted an article about something with coronavirus entering the Vatican or something. Um, but yeah, no, just as a group, it seems like I mean, we were from the get go, the Bears from March were immediately saying this is all bull. From the get
Hmm.
go, like Bears as a group have been saying masks are dumb and we're not doing it from the get go. There's a lot more people starting to come on board with that now, or at least they're posting Facebook posts about that, but they're still wearing masks when they go into the store. These masks are so stupid, blah blah blah, and then they just strap it on to go in the store. What are you looking up?
Well, so what's interesting about what he's talking about, like a whole prophetic aspect, is as a group, is even within the bear community. Look how many things Late Night with JapJap has like predicted before like it's been exposed to the rest of the bear community.
Like what?
Like uh, pun control in a major cod. We were thinking about that for like a week or two, and then apparently that was like a huge like making a song with all the puns with the bears. Right before like 2 or 3 weeks before Beartaria Times, we were talking about Sleuth World New and like other stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. That's true for sure. Yeah, definitely. Um,
And so like fractally speaking, I wonder like A, how does that apply to the bears, and B, how does that apply to us in this little tiny chat?
well, like the Great Bear Trail is. kind of what I'm referring to. It's almost like it's happening, even though it's been. See, the way God works, in order for anything to physically manifest, it has to first be prophetically spoken. That's why the Old Testament was filled with prophetic words about Jesus in order for it to physically manifest. I remember one time I was at a gas station, and there was like a homeless dude, and he came and asked for money, and I did the standard like no money type thing, and then I was going in, and I felt like God said tell him that something like tell him things are going to change for the better for him. He gave him a couple
Mm.
dollars or something, and so I when I got done pumping the gas, I looked for him, and he was gone, and I'm like, oh well, you know. And then I was getting in my car to drive away, and then like I had this thought that I think was from God, and it was like, if you don't say it, it's not going to happen, and that it was
Ooh.
like, like there's a power in, like, even God holds himself to that standard. In order to physically manifest Jesus in flesh, there had to be all these prophetic words about him
God
ahead.
spoke creation into existence.
Right, exactly. Another wonderful example. So it's like, speaking of these things, speaking of the Great Bear Trail, speaking like all these things that we speak about, and we speak about with energy, airships. It's almost like we're manifesting these things, you know, not in the gay, like, you know,
The
black.
secret.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's not
If
like
I just say it enough, I will get the gravel and be a rich person.
right. If I just manifest the lollipops will come. Um,
Right.
and Vegas Prairie Bear puts a mask on the bald spot. Good call. Um, but also I also think about sometimes it's like, I mean, it's kind of a chicken or the egg thing, but it's like, if we continue to we use our imaginations a lot of times to you know gravy, conspiracy theory, a lot of times we're in our imagination imagining how they're conspiring against us, putting getting like 5 pieces of a 20-piece puzzle and filling the rest in with our imagination. And
Yep.
I wonder if we do that enough, if that does something bad. You ever
Well,
think?
like, on one hand, by being able to apply one's imagination in a logical fashion, that is a beneficial exercise. However, that can, if taken too far without sufficient evidence, that beneficial exercise in taken to excessive degrees can also hinder a once beneficial experience.
Well, I'll give an example. Like, look at this up here. Where'd it go? There's a star that just they they tell they tell me where'd it go. I'm trying to get it up here. They tell me this star is, I don't know, something Mars or Jupiter or something, Saturn.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like the coronavirus to me, though. Doesn't that kind of look like the coronavirus in the sky? Look at that. And
Coronavirus in the sky with diamonds.
so there's two of those crazy looking stars in the sky, and I started noticing them in the beginning of the COVID. Well, one of them, and they kind of look like, with my naked eye, it looks a lot like the Space Force logo, like how they Trump launched the Space Force thing. That's what it looks like. It looks like it has that kind of blurry, but
Well,
like,
have you seen the comparisons between the Space Force and the Star Trek logos?
exactly, yeah, same thing, yeah.
Dude, I think that's the Grabble with Space Force.
But those it kind of looks like it, but like, I look at that and I'll be like, what are the Gravelers doing? And it's like, earthquake must have been the Gravelers, uh hurricane Gravelers. So it's like, at what point do we take away take away some of God's power when we keep giving credits to the grabblers? What if they're just putting stuff out there that's lying to like they could put a machine and call it the heart machine and know that some of us might use our imagination to imagine all the things that that machine can do, and they're basically stealing credit from God. I don't know.
Well, yeah, like think about it. That's how the grabblers work. Is they make a generalized plan, and then they put out like conceptual feelers. And because grabblers cannot create, they can only corrupt. And so the purpose of putting out these feelers and public notices, etc., to the general population of non-grabblers is so that then this level of consciousness, this concept, is then put forth into the consciousness of the rest of
Yeah,
society based
exactly.
on conjunction. And after that's been established, then the grabblers can steal and grabble and corrupt that conjecture that's already been put out in the conception,
Right.
and now we
Exactly.
have a new fucking narrative.
Exactly. But like that's why the Bible says like um, to only let your minds dwell on things that are pure, right? Things that are
Yeah.
good. If we're dwelling, oh, I was talking to Hacking Bear the other day, and he was talking about how he used to make these honeypots for pedophiles, and then he was really trying to like take down pedos, and he went on like a mission for 2 weeks. Because he found out like a 24-hour burger joint in New Jersey, and he lived in Missouri. He found out a 24-hour burger joint in New Jersey where a lot of these sex trafficking underage transactions were happening and stuff. So he was like parked out front there, and he was taking pictures, and he was getting all this information.
Before you drop this gravy, what you were saying earlier, I wanted to actually like say it. It's Philippians 4:8. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever feminism, whatever is true.
What is that, NIV? What is that?
Yeah, it's NIV. Yeah, English Standard Version,
Give me the
Berean
ISV.
Study Bible.
Give me the ISV, International Standard
Oh,
Version.
here we go. King James Version does not have
Yeah.
sisters.
Wow.
Finally, brethren, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is of good repute, if there is any excellence, and if anything worthy of praise, dwell on these things.
It doesn't say to dwell on how the grabblers are using debt-based systems to destroy economies.
Well, dude, like all the terms that like verse uses, like it gives like people, any living man or woman, a great variety of things to ponder without like grappling anything.
Right. That's good. Hey, Purely Living Man I was really impressed by that guy. I mean, I've seen him around like this chatting and stuff, but that guy was awesome.
Yeah, like he's super legit. And to be quite honest, I was a little bit intimidated when he was like asking why I was still single and shit. I was like, ah, fuck, I'm a failure.
That was cool though, man. It sounded like he was like asking good questions. He sounded like he really cared. He was trying to build you up.
Oh yeah, for sure, 100%. Like his honesty and like his desire to help me was like, ah, goodness, why am I such a failure? Like someone on Instagram is helping me like not be alone. I don't know. All of his vibes were wonderful, intelligent, good, great questions, but like I had a level of self-shame as he was asking me these wonderful and
So
great
why are
questions.
you single, man? What
So
is wrong
why are
with
you gay?
you? What do you get? So we left the people hanging about the pedophile hunter,
Oh yeah,
hacking.
go go go.
Uh, so he was starting to get identities, and he was because he was. I mean, Hacking Bear when he was young was like one part of like groups of hackers that were like getting the FBI knocking on his door and doing all that stuff. So he was like
Damn.
yeah he. Um, so but and I was like, he said that after a while though, he wasn't feeling peace anymore, right? And we
Hmm.
were talking about that fine line between. There's a fine line between taking action because you have faith to doing things in your own strength. You know what I mean? There's a fine line because you can't just be like, I trust in God and do nothing, because that's faith without works. But
Exactly.
at the same time, you can't just be like, I'm gonna kill all the pedos, like in the world. And he kind of came to like anything in my backyard type is really where he's at, instead of driving across states to go find pedos. Um, but one of the things that we talked about is like, is there things in the scripture where anyone set up honeypots? Did God ever use any of his people to sort of set up honeypots? Um,
Yes.
and there are some spy stories. I'm not sure it's the same. What came to mind for you?
So my first thought was Abraham using Sarah and saying, "Oh yeah, she's my stepsister," or Isaac with
I
Rebecca.
don't think that was a
Same fucking
honeypot.
story, dude.
That wasn't a honeypot. That was Abraham being a pussy and not wanting to get killed.
Well, but also a low key honeypot. And then once the local rulers figured it out, because God gave them supernatural visions, they're like, God, like they like both times, they're like, dude,
Why would it be a honeypot though?
WTF,
What was he trying to do? What was he trying to catch them in?
he was trying to catch them and him not dying.
I don't think that's really a honeypot. Like, honeypot is like you're trying to attract a whole bunch of um
Well,
you know of a type that you can then trap them and like
all
destroy
right,
them.
so I'm thinking of a different definition, but just to satisfy my own curiosity, I'm gonna Google define honey pot.
Like entrapment, basically. Like like Epstein. Epstein is the ultimate honeypot. Like he would have the honeypot that he could then use the evidence that he had to blackmail these rich, powerful, wealthy people.
So I think the not the difference in opinions here is the specific legal terminology of honey or of entrapment, because honeypot is a very ambiguous term, and entrapment is a very legally defined term. And so if one tries to provide your quote unquote target with an attractive member, like romantically, then like for the specific purpose of entrapment, yes, obviously by definition that's a honeypot. But I think that there are also alternative uses of the same strategy that do not specifically define entrapment, which is why I would include Abraham and Isaac's behaviors as like lesser forms of honeypotting.
Yeah, I mean, I think with a honeypot, you have a goal of trying to attract something.
Well, so the
I
goal
think
of
that's
trying to attract something, and that's where we have a difference of opinion. Is like you're leaning. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you're leaning towards more like specifically entrapment, and I'm just saying generally, like if you're trying to get whatever goal, and whatever goal could include not dying, in my opinion, that would also include honeypotting, because the Bible specifically says that both of their wives were very attractive, and that they specifically both claimed stepsister card because of how attractive their wives were, so that because they feared dying, so that they would not die. And in both cases, the local like nobles and like rulers were like, "Whoa, that's a hot biddy," and until God intervened, like they were about to do the deed.
which kind of proves that um, maybe uh, the Jews or Israel or Abraham, all kind of the same thing. are not actually the good guys in the scripture, but the bad guys. And I think we've talked about this because, like, I mean, the fact that the king, had a dream and changed his mind is pretty impressive. Most of us have a dream and be like, "I must eat something weird last night." Not like, I,
Right.
So it's just easy when we read the Bible to assume that whoever the protagonist is the good guy or whatever. Like we just see Abraham, good guy, king, bad guy. I don't know why our brain does that.
Well, it's
Um,
because the whole Judeo-Christian lie and the what's that Bible? It starts with an S, not Smithsonian. Um, the Schofield Bible. Like the Schofield Bible has been like brainwashing Christians, you and myself included, for almost 100 years now, and they're doing it very effectively.
Apparently, they used to torture people in the 1800s by putting honey on naked people and tie them up and send them into the swamp on a boat.
Yeah, that sounds plausible.
But
Like the 1800s were vicious, especially when with respect to the French Revolution, dude. Fucking vicious as shit.
how?
Like to be fair though,
How
like
did that?
1600 and 1700 torture is way worse than 1800 torture.
You think we can go back to that, or is it just the empire collapses first?
Well, so that's a very interesting discussion because in the short term, the same economists who predicted the 2008 collapse, Vox Day among them, they're all predicting collapse between 2030 and 2040, depending on the specific economy that you are like you're listening to. But most of the economists that predicted the 2008 crash are predicting the complete dissolution of America by 2030 to 2040.
I'm saying
So,
9 years and 11 months from March of 2020.
well, so like that being said, is the Book of Revelation specifically speaks of a one world government, one world religion, etc., etc. And if we see the balkanization in the short term, if we see the balkanization of the one world superpower, that in the short term at least, that alludes to going away from any sort of centralized New World Order, one world government. Susie G Music, welcome, welcome. That being said, is even though short-term balkanization is predicted by the best people who predict shit, long-term, if we have a short-term balkanization, that will weaken the various demographic, geographic areas, which will then, in the long term, lead to a greater potential for a one world government that's non-American dominated. And so it's like I understand where all this shit's coming from, but I don't think Revelation is around the corner anymore. Even though that I'm well aware of the first red heifer has been born for hundreds of years, and now the temple of Israel can now be consecrated. Yeah,
I was
I'm aware of
thinking
all that
about,
shit.
how the Revelation talks about the beast was in the pit for 1,000 years and then it came out.
Mm-hmm.
What if when Rome fell or when Jerusalem fell, that was when the beast went in the pit, and now is the time that it's come out or something? Because
Well,
the,
so
the
on surface value, what timeline would you
or there,
use for all the Roman Empire according to that belief system?
I wouldn't
Because
necessarily call it a belief system. Someone just read a scripture and it was just a quick thought that came in my mind. I wonder if it was either that the beast came out. I don't know what it was. I don't like.
well,
I don't understand Revelation. I don't think anyone who claims they understand Revelation is fooling themselves. Like,
Bear, I completely 100% understand all of Revelation because I'm a special boy.
do you understand what the guy went through to have to write the Book of Revelation? That was John, and
Well, dude, John, at the time of Revelation, he had already been the Roman Empire literally tried to boil him alive amongst other attempted execution types. None of it fucking stuck, and so they just sent him off to was it Palmyra, the little island, And that's
Patmos.
when the Lord, what's up?
Patmos. Yeah.
Patmos, yes, thank you, Patmos, on the island of Patmos, and that's when God gave him this like revelation, like literally the book of Revelation, and like he was just on this like island in the middle of fucking nowhere, dude.
He was he was the only guy that did not leave Jesus. Right?
Correct.
All of his friends were killed for, you know, following Jesus and spreading the gospel. Yeah, he boiled alive at the end of his life, old man on an island by himself, and he gets this grand vision, revelation, and he writes it down. And somebody who lives in America and wakes up in the morning and pours coffee and gets to eat nice food and have nice things with no persecution at all, except for maybe getting yelled at for not wearing a mask. Thinks they can
Social shame.
thinks that they're in the place of submission, that they can actually receive the revelation that John did. And I get it. People be like, "Well, we have the same Holy Spirit in us that gave it to him," and it's like, okay, but like he had the same Holy Spirit in him at the end of his life to write Revelation that he did earlier to write the book of John. And there's an obvious difference. So it's kind of like people that get focused on that. I don't know. I just like, I'm down with whatever. If people like it, that's cool. But people are like, it's definitely going to be a pre-trib rapture, or mid-trib. And I'm like, how do you know these things? Like, there's.
Well, so I like you just brought up pre-trib because the whole argument of pre-trib versus mid-trib versus post-trib rapture, those are all concepts that had no biblical validation until the 1830s, where someone literally named John Smith fucking entered into Christian consciousness. And ever since then, it's been causing division. Someone's calling me. Hold up real quick. I'll be right back. Guys, thank you for being patient. I was just getting some food real quick, and I'll explain shortly why this is awesome.
It's like 1 second there's a phone call, the next second you're outside getting food.
I was actually right there.
Oh, no shit?
For whatever reason, it brought me to the adjacent one right there. So
Awesome.
either way, enjoy, brother.
Thank you, dude. I appreciate it.
The DoorDash
So,
flight?
well, Grubhub. But what I really enjoy about that last little like engagement was the last, or no, not the last, the two times ago when I ordered Grubhub, it was a bike thief, and he called me with a similar inquiry of where the fuck do you live, because I live in a really big apartment complex, and it was confusing, and the bike thief was just very abrasive and disrespectful, and so I was like, dude, fucking find it yourself. That's literally your job. And he hung up on me, and I never got my food. This dude, same problem. Where the fuck do you live? It's like, hey man, let me describe to you where I am right now, and like give you a concept of my perspective, and let's work together and figure out how to get you food. So
I'm back. What'd you get? Please share the food items.
What's up?
What are the food items?
The food items are a bag of death freedom fries.
From where? Wait,
Actually,
where?
this is a local restaurant, so they may not be death fries. They may
Oh,
be
okay.
normal fries. Holy shit! And this like insanely thick. This is a burger.
Nice. It looks like Five Guys.
It's called Burger Rush.
Hmm.
But oh my goodness, like that's like one of the biggest burgers I've ever seen in my whole life.
You're in a college town, right?
Yep.
College town usually has good food. This morning, this morning when I have my morning, like as I was talking about reading, when I have my morning time with God, whether reading or praying or just meditating, thinking, walking, whatever, like I understand things differently. So I'm going to say something which is obvious, but when you're really getting something gravy from the Lord, it's like it could be something super basic, but it's all of a sudden feels like gravy. But I
Yeah.
really
Gravy.
I really connected with the fact that if I had like the favor of David or the favor of Solomon on my life at any point, definitely up to now, I would have probably fucked myself up pretty bad.
I see where you're coming
Like
from.
this year, like I know this because the amount I've grown this year from not wearing a mask is a simple thing, but like getting arrested, like all this stuff, I've grown so much in a lot of areas, like humility. And, like I would have for sure been a king that would have been like, "Oh, you defy me? Off with your head," like that would have for sure. Someone tells me to put a
You would have been
mask on.
that kind of king?
I think so because people tell me to put a mask on, and I want to like sue them and take away their doctor's licenses. Like, oh, you're a
Fair
doctor.
enough.
Tell me you're not going to treat me because I not have a mask. I'm going to sue you and get your license removed. Like,
I can see that.
uh, so I don't know, but like I was really connecting with it on even a deeper level though. That was just like, I don't know, man.
The comedic level.
Having that much favor, like wherever you go, just that's just
Well,
that would
yeah. So, like, when you first said that, my initial thought was how King Solomon spoke of his many years where he purposefully was testing himself in a variety of ways, and like with temptations and like poor behaviors and stuff. And like, I think this is a book of Ecclesiastes, if I'm not mistaken. But it's like eventually, after he exposed himself to all these sinful habits, he was like, wow, this is just folly. And it's like just Havel. It's a whispering of the winds. But he
well,
learned that by himself, and God blessed him with the like insanely best economy ever as he was exploring in sinful like habits. And it wasn't until the end of his reign where God was like, all right, even though you fucked up to this like high degree, because of how much you've respected me for the majority of your life, I'm not going to rip the kingdom from you, but from your son. And then that whole story is crazy, you know?
right. Did David know he had the favor? Like I often think about this because you take someone like David who did some terrible things, and um, it's almost like God kind of likes when man doesn't think and just is 100% all out. Like I'll take him. I'll take Goliath. Like this an absolute reckless abandon of logic and reasoning because faith just takes over. But
Mm-hmm.
because I think Paul, Saul Paul was like that, and David, where that leads you to do some dumb stuff, bad stuff, evil stuff. Like there's no way if there was a bear in our community that did what David did, would any of us trust him ever? You know, like not at all. If like, yeah, this dude was a king and he wanted to have sex with this man's wife, so he sent this man into battle and got him killed. Like it's about as dirty as it gets. So, you
But
know,
that's a man who was after God's own heart, which is kind of
right.
like mind blowing to consider.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, and that's a summary of all of the Jews. Like, if the Jews were the
Yeah.
chosen people, it's like they're so proud of the fact that they're the chosen ones, but it's like
Well, I think they
you
were
should be
chosen to piss off the rest of the world.
exactly. Yeah, you should be humbled first of all because you don't deserve to be the chosen one. You know, all you did is complain the whole time. You guys freaking. But I think they might have lost it when they killed Jesus.
Well, no, dude, I think the whole time they've been chosen to piss off the rest of the world.
And to
Like,
rule.
look how much the Old Testament is like these obstinate people, these short neck people or whatever. Like basically the Old Testament, like so much of the Old Testament is God like, what the fuck are these guys doing? Like they're so
Right.
stubborn and ignorant, and I've been helping him the whole time. Like what the fuck, man?
Well, that was the interesting thing when I was doing my Judah studying. The blessing that came from his father towards Judah said the scepter will never leave this tribe, right? That
Mm-hmm.
in a sense, the Judah would always have power. And then so I'm like, it's easy for me to think of Judah as Jews and the bad guys, right? And I just write them off. But then there's this one curveball. And that
Yeah.
curveball is, why is Jesus the Lion of the tribe of Judah? So I asked God that question. Why did you choose to be the Lion of the tribe of Judah? I would have picked like the tribe of Benjamin or something. This is also oddly ironic that I own Benjamin, you know, but like Benjamin's out of all the kids, he was like the good one, right? Um, and but this morning, that's when I realized it's like the Lion tribe of Judah, because Judah they're the slave master tribe. So Jesus became the king of slave masters. And so, you know, we could all be slaves, but then when we become his slave, just like he told his disciples, you're no longer slaves, but my friends.
Well, the Bible does also speak of like you're either a slave to sin or a slave to God.
Oh, that's interesting too. Yeah. That's my husband's name, David, and I have a great life. Oh, I didn't know DNK is a woman. We were thinking it was a man the whole time. She's got a lot of
Nice.
wisdom. She's got a lot of wisdom then, because if I was thinking it was a man and it was a woman, she must be a wise woman, maybe a Proverbs 36 type. Jesus is the seed of David, so he is the promise fulfilled. True that. He was with me when my mom died and promised my mom he would take care and watch over me. She went peacefully. That's a nice thing to say. That's sweet. I
Like,
remember when I asked my wife's dad to marry his daughter.
mm-hmm.
He was watering his plants. It's like a Filipino guy, and so I just go out there and I'm kind of standing next to him, like making small talk, and then I was like, it's like, hey, I wanted to ask you permission, marry your daughter. I'll take care of her. I'll love her. Blah blah blah. And he's just sitting there watering his plants, not saying anything, kind of like stoic. And it's like quiet, like I'm like, you know, asking permission to marry his daughter, and you know, he doesn't say anything. And he goes, well, you're gonna do what you're gonna do. You're getting old now. I was 30 years old. And I'm like, that's the line you come back with when someone asks to marry your daughter? You're gonna do what you're gonna do. You're getting old now. So
That's hilarious.
Good times. So, how was the burger?
Dude, this burger is delicious. The only downside is I was trying. You know the whole concept of like getting the protein style. So that instead of like bread for buns, you get lettuce, and it's supposed to be healthier for you. I'm
Uh,
not enjoying that. It makes eating a burger like 1,000 times more messy.
oh, you have the lettuce bun?
Yeah, like lettuce bun. It's an absolutely delicious burger, a double cheeseburger with onion rings and bacon and shit. But the fact that I can't like grab onto it and just take a good like pour some ranch and just like get a good old bite without the lettuce like slipping and sliding and shit.
Yeah, why would you go lettuce burger when you're having French fries?
Because like a week ago, I randomly decided to order a salad on Grubhub from this like restaurant that I really that I really enjoy, and like that salad just happened to be absolutely delicious. And so then like last week I ordered another salad, and I was like, maybe salads are good now because I historically I've always hated salads,
Right.
and so like maybe I don't know like maybe this is
What
like
about you
according
hate
to like
Caesar
science,
salad?
every 7 years your taste buds like cycle,
Yeah.
and so it's like maybe this is one of those times, and so let's explore rabbit food and see what happens.
I mean, doesn't everyone like Caesar salad though?
No, dude, I hate it.
Really?
Yeah, up until like a month ago, I hated all
I,
salads.
see, I'm Italian, so I just assume everyone loves Caesar salad, I guess. It's like,
And
wait a
pizza
second.
and calzones. Not
Uh,
everybody loves calzones, Trina Bear. How dare you?
Hilaire Bear likes Caesar salads. He loves them. You've only had the wrong ones. Uh,
Yes, and communism has never been done correctly.
what what's another food item that everyone enjoys? Uh, like, well, sushi's pretty popular. There's like a lot of people really like sushi. Sushi's crushed during coronavirus because it was like most people didn't go out, especially the first couple of months, because you bought a bunch of food, you went, to stacked up on meat, you made everything, but no one really can make sushi at home. So it's like the one place that people would order because part of eating out is eating out, like so people aren't going to just like order takeout of like food that they can make at home, but nobody can make sushi.
If you don't like sushi, you're a communist.
For sure. It would be awesome if you made sushi and you cut it with one of those swords.
Ooh,
That'd
I
be that'd
like
be
it.
that'd be a great
The
video.
only thing is I would have to find a very, very fresh supplier of raw fish. Like my great aunt and
Why?
great uncle are currently the proprietors of literally the best sushi restaurant in all of Arizona. Like rated the same thing, like number one multiple times, like multiple years.
That's the Japanese
And
side.
oh yeah, my Japanese side, obviously. And like like they have the freshest supply of fish. And so if I were to try and make sushi one of those things, I would need to at the very minimum go to their place and find their supplier.
You got
Otherwise, like
you got to cut it like how they hold it up by their ear type thing. How they hold the sword by their ear. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, like like facing like the forward. Like
oh, so like
yes, we get live action sword play. That sounds kind of gay. Yeah, but if
Like that.
I don't think you could cut the sushi with that much energy. It'd have to be a precise cut.
Well, obviously, it would have to be very precise, but
But it
with
has to
enough
be
practice,
here like this.
you can apply that much energy and enthusiasm to a very precise cut.
Mortal Kombat. Speaking of that, like, how do people not see that they're dressing up as like Scorpion and Sub-Zero, and those are bad guys? You know,
Dude,
how do people?
Scorpion was my favorite character. He's like, come here.
Yeah, it was good, and Sub-Zero is good, but
Yeah.
they're bad guys because they're covering their face. My sushi guy is named Yo,
Ooh.
and he rocks it in art. See, people, I'm telling you, people love sushi. And
Well, what if Scorpion got his name because he was famous for killing scorpions, and he worked in a very like desert environment, so the mask was like a job hazard thing because he didn't want his like respiratory problems. And like Sub Zero, like similarly, like he obviously works in a very cold environment, and so what if like the mask for him is like a warming thing to maintain his like inner body temperature?
possibly would if
I'm
Scorpion
100% riffing. I've never thought of this before,
had
but it's kind
a
of silly.
skeleton face. I don't know what. Uh, Scorpion has a skeleton face. I think Sub-Zero had a normal face, right? I know
Don't
Scorpion.
remember.
I know Scorpion has a skeleton face.
Yeah, if he was a skeleton face, he was just a zombie. That's not good.
Yeah, like sushi. Like if you don't like sushi, you probably just haven't given it much a chance. Because yeah, I didn't like sushi when I was young. You know, like I didn't like sushi till I was in my 20s. But once you like sushi, once you give it a chance, and you like it. Bosnia Bear's here. You guys
Mm-hmm.
seen the movie Hero Dreams of Sushi?
Oh,
Oh,
no. Bosnia Bear. Everyone wants to hear what you're saying. Tell us about this movie.
I wonder if Bosnia was grappled. Remember when Bosnia was making the news all the time? What were they doing? Are they trying to start their own economy, basically? Were they trying to separate themselves from
Well,
the World
no,
Bank?
that was in the 90s,
Yeah,
and that
like
was because at the time the local Baltic Christians were basically just like repeating the like historic defense of like Christian Europe as Austria has done for hundreds of years. But now in the 90s, we had NATO to bomb all the Christians, and now the Balkans are mainly Muzzies.
I posted this.
Yay!
I posted something. There was a legislation passed called like Education Day. It was Education Day. What year was it? 1991, I believe. And it brought
Ooh.
in noetic laws, which basically, and I was reading about it because it was a guy who was he was on the House of Representatives.
Noatic or Noahide?
Noahide, that one, yeah.
Dragon.
And this guy was on. The guy writing the article was on. He was on the House of Representatives, and he's like, he when that got introduced, and he was like, he remembers that it was a huge grabble. He said because no one told them about it being introduced, and it was unanimously consented. But what they did is they waited till everyone went home, and then they brought it out, and there's no record of anyone voting on it. And but basically, I guess those laws make it where my wife made this cookie. Make it where they could kill Christians.
Yeah. Dude, Noahide, the whole like Noahide law rabbit hole is insanely interesting and super detailed, but also once you realize that even though they're passing all these little special laws all the fucking time, they can't actually enforce any of these laws without either the consent of the people, or B, if the people are distracted to such a high degree.
Well, I know, and I'm thinking about that too,
Well,
but here's the thing: our military is getting really gay, right?
yes,
And there's no one easier to mind control than gay people because their form of love is trauma.
correct.
So you give a bunch of gay people enough weapons, and they might be able to do stuff one at a time, like one at a time. You know, like if in my town is 60,000 people and they target the top 100 people that are highly intelligent, can think for themselves,
Mm-hmm.
then that might be pretty easy.
So the repeat of the Holodomor, basically.
What's that? See, that's
The Holodomor.
Yeah, what's that?
It was the when the Russian Bolshevik Jews originally took over the Russian Empire and turned it to the Soviet Union.
Uh-huh.
In Ukraine specifically, but also in a bunch of other areas, the majority Christian populations were purposefully like the food was taken away from the farmers and like all this other shit to purposefully cause the local population to starve. And as they were doing that to these general populace, they were also specifically targeting military leaders of the White Army and like religious leaders, cultural leaders, like political leaders, to completely dismantle every aspect of the Russian society and culture. It was super vicious. Yeah, that's like if the balkanization was to go down to America, something similar would happen in some local geographic areas. In other places, the opposite would happen.
Who would be targeted? Bears?
No, so
Watching you eat on camera, all it did was make me hungry. Now I want to eat, and I usually don't eat at night like this.
well, so let's say that the balkanization of America happened tomorrow. Specifically looking at California, there would be certain counties in California where conservatives would not do too well. In some cases, that would mean like becoming more of a social pariah. In other cases, that would mean like a more like severe version of where it's like you're not just a social pariah, but people are like, oh, you're a Christian, you don't wear a mask, I can't do business with you, which is kind of a revelation topic. But then I believe in the most extreme scenarios, it would be, oh, you're a Christian, now I need to kill you because you're evil. And
so there's a lot of Christians. Like America's still a majority Christian country in one sense. So it's not like all Christians. I think most of them would cuck in some way, but they're not going to cuck to the point that they're not going to identify themselves as Christian.
Well, look at it this way. Over a nonsense disease that's not been like scientifically proven to exist, almost every church closed. Now imagine that same level of like media bullshit, but now it's like specifically aimed anti-Christian because Christians are the bad guys. The majority of churches closed, which means the majority of Christians, if like they were put in specific harm's way, they would back the fuck down and just be quiet.
But they'd have to grapple it somehow. Like that's why.
Well, of course they would grapple it. It's just what's the specific spell you want to use. They've got they've got a full deck of cards there, bro. and they're like insanely stupid. Like we've literally made it easy for them to play their cards.
Like I really think the brewing up of white supremacy and quote unquote anti-Semitism is setting up for that. I don't think they're going to say Christians are bad. They're going to use. They're going to really keep going towards this white supremacy. You know what I mean?
Well, who do they label as quote unquote white supremacists?
People that point out that the Jews are doing bad things.
So, like, look at did you watch the recent Trump debate? Like 2 weeks ago, whatever?
Yeah.
How the whole big thing was like, oh, how dare you not deny or denounce white supremacists and the Proud Boys?
Right.
Like, I know Proud Boys that are also bears that are like really cool and chill. And I know about the Proud Boys, the various perspectives, opinions of them, etc., etc. That being said, the majority of the Proud Boys are just Christian guys, good conservative dudes that that may or may not be deceived in a variety of ways, but like they're just doing what they think is best to preserve Christian America for the most part. And we already saw in the last presidential debate where the bad guys, the Democrats, like the Democrats, are already trying to connect the Proud Boys with white supremacists. And that is the obvious forward movement of cultural Marxism, is now that the current cultural Marxists currently believe that they've cemented white supremacists always super bad no matter what, based on their fucked up definition. Now they're trying to include various conservative groups with the previous term that in their minds they've established as a hate term. And that's only going to, the mission creep is only going to increase until everyone who isn't a cultural Marxist is a quote-unquote white supremacist bad guy. That's literally their game plan.
Everyone is first of all, I don't quite understand Marxism. It's interesting that Bosnia is begging for when he's begging to push back